U.S. President Donald Trump says he'll launch Project Freedom to escort stranded commercial ships through the Strait of Hormuz, drawing a warning from Iran that it would attack any foreign military presence, particularly U.S. forces entering the area. Korean stocks surged more than 5% on Monday, closing at a new high and edging closer to the 7,000 mark, as investors are piled into semiconductor shares ahead of developments in U.S.-Iran peace talks. With just a month to go before Korea's June 3rd local elections, candidate lineups are largely set across key battlegrounds, as the first nationwide vote under the Lee Jae-myung administration shapes up to be a high-stakes test of political momentum for both ruling and opposition parties. We begin with the Middle East conflict. A U.S.-led initiative announced by U.S. President Donald Trump to guide stranded commercial vessels through the Strait of Hormuz has drawn objections from Iran. Our Moon Hae-ryung starts us off.
U.S. President Donald Trump has announced that a U.S.-led operation to escort commercial ships out of the Strait of Hormuz will begin Monday morning Middle East time through what the U.S. is calling Project Freedom. President Trump described the stranded vessels as merely neutral and innocent bystanders. Framing the operation as a humanitarian gesture for crews running low on supplies, he said if in any way the humanitarian process is interfered with, that interference will unfortunately have to be dealt with forcefully. The operation challenges Iran's strict limits on maritime traffic, enforced since the start of Operation Epic Fury. In response, the Iranian military issued a statement on Monday, where it insisted that all commercial shipping must coordinate with Iranian forces to ensure safe transit. It cautioned that any foreign military presence, particularly from the United States, would be attacked if it tried to enter the area. Amid the standoff at sea, diplomatic efforts remain strained. Iran's foreign ministry confirmed it received Washington's response to its 14-point peace proposal via Pakistan and is currently reviewing the counter-proposal. In a press conference, its spokesperson said the review was not easy due to the U.S. practice of making excessive and unreasonable demands. The proposal from Iran demands the withdrawal of U.S. forces from near Iranian borders and an end to the U.S. naval blockade within 30 days, while explicitly ruling out nuclear negotiations. President Trump, however, has signaled he will reject the terms. Trump told Israeli media the proposal is unacceptable, writing in a separate post that he cannot imagine accepting the plan, as Tehran has not yet paid a big enough price for what they have done over the last 47 years. Moon Hae-ryung, Arirang News.
German Chancellor Friedrich Merz is downplaying the impact of a potential U.S. troop reduction in Germany, instead reaffirming Berlin's commitment to its alliance with Washington. Lee Seung-jae reports.
German Chancellor Friedrich Merz has sought to play down rising tensions with the United States, emphasizing that Washington remains central to the NATO alliance, despite recent disagreements with President Donald Trump. Speaking in a televised interview with public broadcaster ARD on Sunday, Merz described the U.S. as Germany's most important ally, acknowledging that policy differences are inevitable, but insisting they do not undermine the strength of the transatlantic partnership.
I have to accept that the American president holds a different view on these issues than we do, but that does not alter the fact that I remain convinced the Americans are important partners for us, the most important ones in the North Atlantic Alliance.
His remarks follow Washington's announcement of a troop drawdown in Germany, a move Merz downplayed as neither new nor a major concern. Despite ongoing disagreements over the Iran conflict, he reaffirmed his commitment to continued cooperation with Trump and pledged not to abandon efforts to maintain strong transatlantic ties. The comments come amid a sharp deterioration in relations between the two countries. Trump reacted angrily to Merz's earlier criticism of U.S. strategy in the Iran war, responding with plans to reduce U.S. troop levels in Germany and impose higher tariffs on European Union automobile imports. Meanwhile, global attention is shifting to Yerevan, where world leaders have begun arriving ahead of the 8th summit of the European political community. Held under the theme Building the Future, Unity and Stability in Europe, the meeting brings together leaders from nearly 50 countries, including all 27 European Union member states, at a time of significant geopolitical uncertainty. Key agenda items are expected to include the reduction of U.S. troops in Germany and the broader economic impact of the prolonged U.S.-Iran conflict. Launched in October 2022 following the outbreak of the Ukraine war, the EPC, often described as an EU plus Alpha forum, aims to strengthen political dialogue and cooperation across the European continent with participation at times from 44 countries. 이승재, Arirang News.
Now, following the U.S. decision to withdraw about 5,000 troops from Germany, eyes are on whether the Trump administration will force a posture change here in South Korea as well. Our Kim Bo-kyung talked to some experts.
With Washington's order to pull out some of its troops from Germany, eyes have been on how this would affect the 28,500 U.S. troops stationed in South Korea, which is the third largest posting after Germany. Experts say the decision regarding Germany could spark a debate over reducing the number of USFK troops, but it will not lead to major or imminent change, as the Korean peninsula is strategically different from Europe.
North Korea's nuclear and missile threats are immediate and persistent, and any crisis on the peninsula would require a rapid response. For that reason, the possibility of a larger scale reduction of U.S. forces in South Korea in the short term remains relatively very low.
South Korea, unlike U.S. forces in Europe, also has the important mission of countering China. Because of this, any relocation or reduction that doesn't align with strategic goals or efficiency would likely be very difficult.
But pundits do say Seoul should not dismiss the broader implications of the recent decision, which reflects Washington's shift toward greater flexibility and how its assets in Korea will be used.
The more important questions are what missions USFK will perform, how U.S. assets on the peninsula might be used in a regional contingency, and how both allies can prevent any defense gap on the Korean peninsula if those assets are temporarily redeployed.
As of 2022, most USFK are ground troops, with around 18,000, while the Air Force fields around 8,000. In terms of strategic flexibility, as Trump is considering pushing Seoul to take greater responsibility for deterring Pyongyang and shifting USFK toward a China-focused role, especially in the event of a Taiwan contingency, restructuring could happen.
South Korea is expected to handle most of North Korea's conventional threats, so a large number of U.S. ground troops may not be necessary. As a result, U.S. forces in South Korea could be restructured by reducing army forces and strengthening air and naval capabilities.
Experts thus advise Seoul to consult closely with Washington over mechanisms for strategic flexibility while ensuring a firm deterrence against Pyongyang. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
Korean stocks shot up by more than 5% on Monday, closing at a record high and edging closer to the 7,000 mark. Kim So-young has the details.
The KOSPI opened up 2.8% at around 6,780 and extended its record-breaking rally. After slipping at the close before the long weekend, despite hitting an intraday high, the index maintained strong upward momentum throughout today's session. It started from around 6,598 and climbed steadily, with gains widening to nearly 5% intraday, breaking past 6,780 and even topping 6,930. The benchmark closed at 6,936, up 5.1% on the day. It not only set a new intraday record, but also finished at an all-time high. With the rally accelerating, the once-distant 7,000 mark is now within reach. SK hynix also made headlines, becoming the second Korean firm after Samsung Electronics to surpass a $1 trillion market cap. It reached a fresh record high in just a single session. After plunging from its early April peak, the stock has staged a sharp rebound. It fell from 1.45 million won on April 1st to the 1.1 million range by the 14th, before quickly recovering. It rebounded to the 1.22 million range on the 22nd and climbed back to 1.28 million by April 30th. Over that period, the stock surged about 59%. The rally continued after the holiday. On May 4th, SK hynix closed at 1.447 million won, up 12.52% from the previous session. Still, concerns are emerging over the rapid run-up. The long-standing market adage, sell in May, is also coming back into focus. Experts warn that short-term volatility could pick up this month. With geopolitical risk still in play, experts also point to the possibility of profit-taking by foreign investors, potentially leading to portfolio rebalancing and increased selling pressure. Kim Seoyoung, Arirang News.
Online shopping in Korea hit a record high in March, surpassing 25 trillion won, or about $17 billion for the first time. And the Ministry of Data and Statistics said Monday that the total value of online shopping reached 25.5 trillion won, which is up 13.3% year-on-year. Mobile shopping maintained double-digit growth, but its share of total transactions slipped slightly. Now, travel and transportation services led the gains, driven by stronger demand for flight bookings. Automobile-related sales more than doubled, fueled by increased deliveries of imported electric vehicles, while telecom device sales jumped on new smartphone releases. Meanwhile, cross-border online sales in the first quarter jumped nearly 24%, driven by the global popularity of K-culture. The heirs of Samsung have completed the final payment of the largest inheritance tax ever recorded here in Korea, wrapping up a 5-year settlement. Kim Junong has this report.
The Samsung family has fully paid off its inheritance tax bill totaling 12 trillion won, or roughly $8 billion. The company announced Sunday that Samsung Electronics chair Lee Jae-yong and other family members settled the bill via 6 installments over the past 5 years. The process began with the tax filing in April 2021 following the death of the late chairman Lee Gun-hee in October 2020. The family used Korea's deferred payment system and, at the time, described paying taxes as a natural duty of citizens, pledging full compliance. The former chief left an estate valued at around $17.6 billion, including shares, property, and art collections. The resulting inheritance tax, estimated at about $8 billion, marks the largest ever seen in Korea's history. The amount exceeds the government's total inheritance tax revenue of about $5.5 billion in 2024 by roughly 50%, making it highly unusual even by global standards. Hong Ra-hee, the widow of the late Lee Gun-hee, is estimated to have paid the largest share at more than $2 billion. Chairman Lee Jae-yong and his sisters, Lee Bu-jin and Lee Se-hyun, are estimated to have each paid in the high $1 billion range. Korea has one of the highest inheritance tax rates in the world, reaching up to 50% for large estates that exceed $2 million. In Samsung's case, an additional 20% surcharge is applied to shares held by controlling shareholders, effectively pushing the total tax burden to around 60% of the estate. Beyond meeting their tax obligations, the family also gave back to the public, including a roughly $600 million medical support fund and donation of more than 23,000 artworks.
This marked an unprecedented transfer of wealth back to society. Despite concerns that the heavy tax burden could strain liquidity and complicate control of the business, the process was ultimately handled smoothly, making it a positive outcome overall.
Industry observers say the case could serve as a precedent for succession at other major conglomerates. Kim Junong, Arirang News.
President Lee Jae-myung has asked the ruling Democratic Party to determine the timing and planned procedures for a proposed special counsel probe through public consultation and deliberation. That is, according to Senior Presidential Secretary for Public Affairs Hong Ik-pyo on Monday, who said there's a broad public support to launch a probe into illegal acts and unjust investigations. Democratic Party lawmakers introduced a bill last week to appoint a special counsel to examine allegations that prosecutors under the former Yoon Suk-yeol administration brought politically motivated indictments. The investigation would cover charges against Lee, including breach of trust in real estate development projects and alleged involvement in the illegal transfer of funds to North Korea. The opposition has slammed the bill as a form of self-pardon, arguing that Lee, as president, would appoint a special counsel who could then drop existing indictments if found to be based on fabricated evidence. With 1 month to go until the June 3rd local elections, analysts say the vote is shaping up to be a key barometer of public sentiment on national issues as candidates across party lines pledge change. Our National Assembly correspondent An Sung-jun reports.
Korea's first nationwide election since the launch of the Lee Jae-myung administration is entering full campaign mode. Candidate lineups for 16 metropolitan mayoral and gubernatorial races have now been finalized, with just 30 days to go until voters head to the polls. The ruling Democratic Party is aiming for a sweeping victory, hoping to consolidate both central and local power to accelerate its reform agenda and stabilize governance. The main opposition People Power Party faces mounting pressure to deliver meaningful results as it seeks to rebuild after a series of setbacks. The race for Seoul's mayor, one of the country's key battlegrounds, has taken shape as a two-way contest between the DP's candidate Chung Won-ho and the incumbent mayor Oh Se-un of the PPP. Among other things, housing policy is set to be a central campaign issue. Chung is focusing on delivering tangible results for housing while also emphasizing labor reforms, including flexible work arrangements and measures to address job displacement driven by AI and climate change. Oh promotes a rapid integrated planning initiative aimed at fast-track redevelopment and reconstruction projects by easing loan regulations to revive housing supply. For this local election, the traditional conservative Gyeongsangdo region is also a major battleground, with the ruling party seeking to make inroads, while the opposition fields high-profile candidates to defend its strongholds. The DP candidates are presenting a broad regional development blueprint, notably a megacity initiative, aimed at reshaping the area into key national growth hubs for logistics and innovation. Meanwhile, the PPP is also pushing for a regional blueprint through legislation, which lays the groundwork for administrative unification within the region, for expanded local autonomy and fiscal decentralization. At the same time, by-elections for 14 National Assembly seats will be held alongside the local polls, many triggered by resignations involving lawmakers, adding another layer of political stakes. With polls so far suggesting the ruling party has the edge, attention is now turning to whether that lead will hold. As the full-scale campaign begins, the stage has been set for a high-stakes showdown that will ultimately be decided by voters in just 1 month. An Sung-jin, Arirang News.
A North Korea women's football team is set to visit South Korea this month, marking the North's first sports delegation to come to the South in over 7 years. According to Seoul's Unification Ministry and the Korea Football Association, North Korea's Daegohyang women's football team will take part in the AFC Women's Champions League semifinals on May 20th. Now, Daegohyang will play in the Champions League for the first time after winning 3-0 in the quarterfinal in Vietnam. The upcoming visit draws attention given the lapse in inter-Korean exchanges, with the North having declared the South a hostile state. Over in the South China Sea, a dispute is flaring between Manila and Beijing. The Philippines said Chinese vessels were conducting illegal marine scientific research in its waters, warning that aircraft and boats would be deployed to remove the Chinese ships. Cha Yong-kyung has more.
The Philippine Coast Guard said on Sunday local time that Chinese vessels were conducting illegal marine scientific research in its waters. The PCG spokesman Rear Admiral J. Terriella posted a statement on Facebook saying the PCG has determined that they are conducting illegal marine scientific research without the legal authority or prior consent of the Philippine government, in clear violation of the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. He revealed the spots where the Chinese ships were spotted. Itbayat in the northernmost province of Batanes, near Rizal in Palawan, within the vicinity of the disputed Jackson Atoll, and another site close to the Scarborough Shoal. Terriella warned that the aircraft and boats would be deployed to protect the sovereign rights of the Philippines. In response, the Chinese Foreign Ministry urged the Philippines to immediately cease its dangerous actions and keeps its distance from Chinese boats. It said the Chinese research ships are conducting normal scientific research activities and navigating normally in waters under Chinese jurisdiction, in accordance with Chinese domestic law and international law, including the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. The two countries are at odds over sovereignty issues regarding the South China Sea. A Chinese coastal guard said on Sunday local time that Philippines crewmen landed on a rock in the South China Sea illegally, and it would deal with them under the law. Bloomberg reported that the Philippines has strengthened the military ties with the U.S. to safeguard its claims in the disputed area, leading to repeated clashes between Chinese and Philippine vessels. Reuters said the Philippines and China have criticized each other in the South China Sea, raising tensions in the area. Cha Yoon-kyung, Arirang News.
Time now to take a look at what's been happening in the world of sports. For that, we have our sports editor, Paul Nitt, joining us in the studio. Welcome back, Paul.
Thank you. Hello.
Paul, I remember last year, Son Heung-min scored a lot of goals for LAFC, but this year it looks like he's focusing on assists, rather.
It certainly does seem that way, doesn't it? He got another assist on Saturday in a 2-2 draw with San Diego FC. This put him on 8 for the season to make him the league's outright leading assist maker. Son came off the bench in the second half and helped his team come back from 2-0 down to earn a draw. He supplied Dennis Boanga 8 minutes from time to make it 2-1 and therefore helping to lead to a grandstand finish. Now, LAFC sit third in the Western Conference after 11 games played. And on Thursday last week, Son added 2 more assists in the first leg of a CONCACAF Champions League Cup semi-final. LAFC beat Toluca of Mexico 2-1 with Son getting an assist for both goals. Timothy Tillman on 51 minutes, then Nkosi Tafari in the 91st. The second leg is set for this Wednesday or Thursday morning, Korea time.
I see. Well, Son will, of course, be heading to Mexico for the World Cup this summer. Now, I understand that the Korean national team squad will be announced soon, right?
It will, yes, on May 16th, that's Saturday next week. Yonhap reports that head coach Hom Young-bo will announce his 26-man squad at 4 p.m. on that day from KT Gwanghwamun West Building in Seoul. It'll all be streamed live and there'll be a K-pop performance afterwards. And the same report says that there'll be some events put on by the KFA in the city to mark the occasion. But one player who is facing a fitness battle to make the squad is Feyenoord midfielder Hwang In-bom. According to media outlet 1908.nl in the Netherlands, Hwang will miss the rest of the domestic season. The Korean media has seen this to mean that Hwang, a key player, could be a doubt for the World Cup. The tournament begins on June 11th local time, and Korea's first match is against Czechia in the following day.
Okay, now moving on to baseball now. Korea has a new hits leader, right?
It does, yes. KBO, the Samsung Lions veteran Choi Hyung-woo. This came following a 4-hit game on Sunday to take him to 2,623. The 42-year-old went 4 for 4 against the Hanwha Eagles in a 7-6 win for the Lions. This was enough to overtake Son Ah-sop of the Doosan Bears. Now, Son has managed just 4 hits all year, but Choi has 37 to his name to move into first place. According to Yonhap, Choi, who made his debut in 2002, is also the all-time leader in KBO for doubles with 548, RBIs with 1,758, and total bases with 4,483.
An all-time great. Now, speaking of all-time greats, in badminton, another accolade for An Se-young. Tell us more.
Yes, this time An has led Korea to a world team title at the 2026 Uber Cup. Now, South Korea overcame China 3-1 on Sunday in Horsens, Denmark to seal the world title. And An set the tone with a straight games win over world number 2 Wang Jiyi in the opening singles. China levelled through their top-ranked doubles pair, but Kim Ga-eun stunned Chen Yufei to restore Korea's lead. Baek Hana and Kim Hye-jong then sealed the title in 3 games in the second doubles match. It's South Korea's 3rd world title win overall, first since 2022. It was a dominant campaign led by An, who won all 6 of her matches without dropping a single game.
Incredible. Thanks for that, Paul. As always, I'll see you next Monday.
Thank you, yep.
Tomorrow marks Ipha, the traditional start of summer in Korea, and Children's Day. It'll be a bright and pleasant spring day overall, but with large day-to-night temperature differences. Meanwhile, rough seas advisories are in effect for offshore areas of the southern and central East Sea. These advisories will be lifted early tomorrow morning. As for air quality, fine dust levels will range from good to moderate nationwide. However, UV levels will be very high nationwide, and ozone concentrations are also expected to rise. So extra caution is needed if you plan to spend extended time outdoors. Tomorrow, Seoul will start the day at 8 degrees Celsius, Chuncheon at 5 degrees, Daejeon at 8 degrees. Then by the afternoon, Seoul will get up to 22 degrees, Daegu at 23 degrees, Jeju at 19 degrees. Looking ahead, temperatures will continue to climb gradually, but by Thursday, rain is expected in parts of Gyeonggi-do and western Gangwon-do provinces from the morning into the afternoon. Now here's a look at the weather around the world.
That is all we have for tonight. I'm Kim Dami. From all of us here at Arirang, thanks for watching and good night.